Why, hello, my loves, and welcome back to Spook Manor. Are you here for a dirty little rush? Then join me as we follow four young women determined to secure their fate. It is a cool autumn night in Iowa where our story begins. Four young pledges await to hear their final two tasks. They are in high hopes of joining the sorority of their dreams, making the atmosphere of the room intense with nervous anticipation. They knew the last task was prohibited, but the sorority sisters holding the gathering didn't see anything wrong with making their pledges sweat. It was all in harmless fun, and with Halloween tomorrow night, they wanted to add a little spooky adventure before announcing their final decisions. The room is dark and candles burn softly on the large engraved mahogany table which sits in the middle of 5 tall chairs. Velvet couches line the room behind the table. Deep red curtains draped the towering walls and blocked the massive Tudor-style windows. A fire roars in the marble fireplace as the head sorority sister sits patiently in one of the chairs. The four pledges sat in the remaining chairs, trying to hide their nerves and pretending to be cheery. But the sisters were playing hardball with their mind, causing them to squirm and shift uncomfortably as the time ticked by. As the ancient clock struck the hour, the head sister, Scarlet, began to speak. We are proud of our efforts in preserving history. As you all well know, you have done well. Each of you have been reliable and present at all of our charitable events. So tonight's task will be that of knowledge. I have here a legend, lore about a local grave site, and want you to tell me about its true past. She paused for a minute and gave a sinister smile to each of the pledges. Her fellow sisters snickered from the couches along the walls, clinking their wine glasses and watching with devilish expressions. Taking a moment to watch the pledges shift awkwardly, she continued on. There is a plot in Oakland Cemetery on the east side. Lot 4, Block 9. Tell me, why is this gravesite unique? She asked, and to her surprise, the sweet little pledge Penny raised her hand slightly. It is the Black Angel of Death, she answered in a shaky voice. Correct, the Black Angel of Death. She is very unique compared to most angel statues on gravesites, which are often white and made of marble. People expect to see these angelic beings with their faces and wings turned up towards the sky to help guide the dearly departed back to heaven. But this hooded figure looks upon the ground, with one wing down and the other up as though shielding something from the sunlight. There are many rumors as to how she got her name. Some say the person who had it built was so evil that on the night of their burial, a terrifying storm rolled in. The figure was struck by an impressive bolt of lightning and turned black as a constant, cursed reminder of the family's sins. While others believe that a man had placed the bronze statue upon his wife's grave, and it turned black because of her scandalous ways. This rumor goes hand in hand with another version of the tale, which states that a woman erected the angel upon her husband's grave with a promise that it would turn black if she were ever unfaithful to him. Either way, the black patina is said to be a divine consequence of their infidelity. But none of these claims compare to the myth that a priest had buried his only son under it, and it became cursed with the black mark to expose that the priest was the very one who had murdered his son. Now tell me, what is the real reason for the ominous color change? Scarlet asked, looking around the table. It was then that one of the pledges, Brittany, raised her hand. You said it's bronze, right? She paused while Scarlet nodded a yes and Brittany continued. You know I'm a science geek, she laughed before going on. It's normal for bronze to turn black from oxidation, especially when it's been in the elements over time. I'm going to guess that the statue is 100 years old or more? Yes. The exact date is debated. Some say it was erected in 1912, while others suggest it was 1918. Scarlet added with an approving gesture. Now I ask someone else. Who is buried there? Scarlet inquired. It was then that the third pledge, Liz, spoke up. "That's a trick question. 3 people are buried there." And Scarlett quickly responded with, "Congratulations. Now you can tell us the story." She replied with a twinkle in her eye, and Liz went on. "I actually wrote a paper about this exact monument once. Here's the real story of how it came about. It all began with a Bohemian woman named Teresa, born in what was formerly the Czech Republic in 1836. She married a prominent doctor by the surname Donizal, and they had a son who died when he was 2 weeks old. The tragedy inspired Teresa to become a midwife, getting her certificate in Vienna and returning home, where she gained a highly respected reputation for her medical skills. It is believed that she delivered hundreds of babies in her lifetime. Nearing her 40s in age, she had another son named Edward, or Eddie Donizal. With her son being only 4 years old at the time, Teresa left her husband and immigrated to the United States, to right here in Iowa, where she continued her medical career. Her beloved son was said to follow in her footsteps and worked hard towards getting his medical degree later on in life. But tragedy struck, and Eddie died at 18 from meningitis in 1891. Teresa was distraught and had a tree stump monument placed on his grave as a metaphor for his life being cut short. They say she traveled around a lot after this. Some say that she married a man in Chicago, then left him shortly after. But it was when she moved to Eugene, Oregon, that she was finally able to find happiness with a German rancher by the name of Nicholas Feldwert. They shared common ground in that they had both been divorced and had both suffered the grief of losing a child. In 1911, tragedy struck the poor woman again, when Nicholas had passed away. But there is a silver lining. He left her with a massive ranch, which she sold for a fortune and became a very rich woman. Not long after this, she returned to Iowa. She wanted to honor her beloved husband along with her son, so she hired a man to create the bronze angel as a monument to them. She then had her son's remains exhumed and moved to the new location. Her son and husband's ashes were then placed together alongside the monument. It is said that this is why the angel stares at the ground. It is watching over and protecting her loved ones. Teresa passed away in 1924 from cancer, and in the end, she too was buried there. Although you can see the birth and death dates of her family members, her death date was left off the inscription because she had no living relatives to ensure that it would be placed there. I personally find it sad that the urban legend claims that she is an evil woman. She wasn't. Just a poor woman who suffered too much, and yet she had brought so much life and happiness into this world with her career. Liz closed with a sad look upon her face, and there was a moment of silence. "I believe she got a bad rap because of a legal matter that came about." Hannah, the last pledge, spoke up. The head sister Scarlett looked up at her and said, "Oh yes, I didn't forget about you. Dear Liz here stole the show. I thought we were going to have to disqualify you as a default, but here is your chance to redeem yourself." She smirked and gestured towards Hannah. "Go on." Hannah gave a small, nervous laugh as she began. "Well, this is an interesting case that we reviewed in my law class. Teresa Donizal Feldwert was drowning in grief and was now far wealthier than she had ever been before. She hired a Czech sculptor from Chicago named Mario Corbel. Apparently, she paid him around $5,000 to create the angel, and she had very specific expectations. This is where the confusion on the year the statue was erected comes in. It is believed that the angel was delivered to the town by flat car in 1912. When Teresa saw it, she was very upset. The angel was designed correctly, but one of the most important details was missing. Teresa wanted a replica of her son Eddie's tree stump headstone as part of the base, and the artist just left this off completely. They fought about it in court for 6 years. She believed that she shouldn't have to pay the man because of this grand mistake, but the judge eventually ruled in the sculptor's favor. The case closed in 1918, and the statue was transferred from storage to its current location in Oakland Cemetery. Sometime after the angel was installed, Teresa finally had her son's tree stump stone moved and placed beside the statue. Hannah finished with a glance up at Scarlet for approval. "Very good. You all pass." But the relief and excitement among the girls was short-lived as Scarlet stood up and began walking slowly around the room behind each of the chairs. Silence fell over the group as a few candles were blown out. The light dimmed and a smoky haze filled the air around them. Scarlet spoke in an ominous voice. "This brings us to our final phase and the last fateful task. We enter the supernatural on our journey to become sisters. Most of the lore is said to happen at midnight, on the full moon, and on All Hallows' Eve. And what a lucky coincidence! Everything has lined up perfectly. Hope I'm not ruining your Halloween plans, as we will be meeting tomorrow night at the Black Angel of Death." The sisters and the pledges all knew they could be expelled for this, but no one wanted to take a chance on being disqualified, especially after nearly 11 weeks of hard work and time devoted. The day passed quickly, and before they knew it, the witching hour was upon them. A group of sisters stood behind the pledges as they formed a half circle around the monument, which towered over them at 8.5 feet tall. The night was dark, but the security lights about the graveyard provided enough light for them to see. They had all been celebrating the festivities of the holiday, and alcohol was flowing freely among them throughout the night. Scarlet suddenly stepped forward and looked down upon her list. She then called out, "The inscription on the grave honoring the Fedivert family is in a foreign language. However, it has been loosely translated over the years and is said to read as follows. The sun and clouds stood above my journey. There were tough and joyful days in life, but you did my work just to make the world better. You fold your hands and your head goes down. Your spirit flies away where everlasting reward is waiting for you after hardship." But there is another inscription as well, on the tree stump part of the monument, dedicated to Teresa's son Eddie in English, which states, "Like a bud just opening, commenced my life to be. But death came without mercy, without pity. The Lord had sent for me. I was not granted time to bid adieu. Do not weep for me, dear mother. I am at peace in my cool grave." The girls all held a moment of silent reverence before Scarlet continued. "No university co-ed is a true co-ed until they are kissed in front of the Black Angel. It is said that if you are kissed near her in the moonlight, you will die in 6 months. They say the angel gets darker every year because of each life that she takes. Liz and Penny, kiss each other," she ordered with an evil grin, and the girls all giggled. Penny was so shy and innocent to the world. She had never been kissed before and felt awkward in this moment, thinking to herself, well, they say everyone experiments in college. She closed her eyes tightly and Liz gave her a big, wet, comically dramatic smooch on the lips. The sisters all cheered and Penny and Liz were glad to be done with their part of the task. Scarlet then called their attention again. The next superstition goes that if you touch the angel, you will die in 7 years. Okay, Brittany, you're up. Brittany playfully ran over to the statue in a skipping manner. She stopped to look at the other girls, who fell into whispered giggles. With everyone watching, Brittany reached out her finger and touched the tip of the angel's wing. The group broke into applause, and Brittany returned to the group with a deep bow and drunken laugh. "Last but not least," Scarlet called out, "if you kiss the angel, you will die instantly. Hannah, I believe this one is for you." Everyone oohed and awed with little snickers, and Hannah stepped forward without a hint of fear. She dramatically danced over to the statue, mimicking Brittany in a comical fashion. One of the sisters called out, "We love you, Hannah! Don't die!" Hannah spoke with a kittenish French accent, expressing her undying love for the figure before her. She climbed upon it in a whimsical manner and gave it a dramatic and cinematically romantic kiss. When nothing happened, she jumped back down, and everyone cheered again. The tasks were finally over. Each girl was accepted into the sorority, and they all left to celebrate. But tragedy awaited them the next morning. Hannah had been found dead in her dorm room. Autopsy reports provided little information, with the only suggestion being perhaps alcohol poisoning or natural causes, though the report clearly stated that it was likely the latter, as her blood and alcohol levels were not conducive with the idea of poisoning. Although most of the sisters forgot about their silly adventure to the cemetery on that fateful night, Penny never did. She followed her sisters throughout the years, and as time went on, the genuine nature of the legend was revealed. Brittany, who had touched the angel, died unexpectedly in her home at the 7-year mark. Liz, who Penny had kissed, died in a freak snowmobile accident within the legend's 6-month time frame. But Penny too had been kissed near the angel and lived a long and happy life. Why, you ask? Well, you see, the legend is very clear. If a girl who is innocent of the world and men is kissed, the curse will be lifted, and she will remain free from the dark magic of the Black Angel of Death. So tell me, my loves, have you visited either of the Black Angels of Iowa and walked their sacred ground? Please comment down below, and like and subscribe for more fictional stories that are often of actual urban legends and sometimes have historical reference. See you next week, and have a good night.